Good morning, everyone. My name is Kathie Poindexter, and I'm a product marketing manager for Epicor software. I focus on highly regulated industries such as aerospace and defense, medical device, energy, and those types of industries. Today I'm going to be speaking about maintaining manufacturing innovation and growth and how to manage your business in today's regulatory regimes. Federal regulation is estimated to cost more than $1 trillion annually, according to a report by the Small Business Administration's Office of Advocacies. The study found that the United States spent more, or manufacturing comprised more than $162 billion of the $648 billion burden of environmental, economic, workplace, and tax-compliant regulations. Dollars spent by manufacturers on regulatory compliance with cumbersome or duplicative regulations are dollars not spent on capital investment or hiring new workers in America. Today I'll be talking just a little bit about my company Epicor, getting into the keys of regulatory compliance, what best-in-class companies are doing about regulatory compliance, summarize things, and if there's time, take a few questions. Epicor was founded in 1984 and has been listed on the NASDAQ since 1992. Our revenues, the last those reported in 2009, were a little over $410 million. Employees are worldwide, over 2,700 with 400 partners, and we have over 20,000 customers. We focus on 4 major industry segments, with our largest being manufacturing and distribution. We also have hospitality and entertainment, retail, and services. We cover over 150 countries in 30 languages, and we retain 95% of our customers, which is an extremely high retention rate in our industry. Mid-market customers require low total cost of ownership to stay competitive. One of the key areas where they can achieve low cost ownership is improvements in their manufacturing compliance. And those are some of the areas we'll be talking about today. There are many compliance concerns that people have. You don't know whether you're regulated or are going to be regulated. You have concerns about how you're going to implement new regulations. You don't know whether to comply, whether you can comply with your regulators' rules. You might be spending too much to comply with the regulations, or you just think there's too many regulations to cope with. You might be tying up too much capital on some specific small regulations, and you may need to plan for staff training in light of new compliance issues that are coming in the future. Proposed regulations you're fearful might destroy your business or lead to a loss of competitive advantage. And finally, you are concerned about the reputational risk from failing to comply with regulations. We've all heard some of the big names out there who had large fines levied on them for various regulatory problems. There are 4 major components within compliance. You have to have the strategy, the processes, the technology, and certainly foremost the people to comply with regulatory regimes. In general, compliance means conforming to a rule, such as a specification, policy, standard, or law. Regulatory compliance describes the goal that corporations or public agencies aspire to in their efforts to ensure personnel are aware and take the proper steps to comply with all the relevant laws and regulations. Due to the increasing number of regulations and the need for operational transparency, organizations are increasingly adopting the use of consolidated and harmonized sets of compliance controls. This approach is used to ensure that all necessary governance requirements can be met without unnecessary duplication of effort and with the activity and those resources. Now let's focus on each of those 4 components a little bit. Strategy. You need to get out in front of regulatory compliance. You need to assess policies in development, survey the landscape, and assess what policies are in the formative stage. Analyze the risks and threats of each of those regulations, as well as the opportunities they may present. Learn about their backers and their detractors. Score the potential impact of relevant policies on your business. Determine how closely they should be monitored and decide what policies should be proactively addressed. Once you've identified these key policies, plan your response. Influence the policy decisions. Once you have a deep knowledge of the issues and policies on the horizon, get proactively involved in the public policy process. Mobilize allies. Get with interest groups. Execute and adjust your plan accordingly. You need to ensure operational alignment. Ensure your company's core operations are proactively aligned with emerging policies. For example, if you are a technology company, a new environmental mandate may require you to have a certain level of eco-friendly content with your products by a specific date. As a pharmaceutical company, you may need to proactively ramp up your manufacturing operation to deliver a critical vaccine. As a telecommunications company or leader, you may need to upgrade your safeguard processes and training to comply with new requirements for consumer telephone records. Or for the instance in our industry, in software, we have to comply with the international trade and arms regulations. Now that sounds a little funny, but we need to ensure that our customers can comply with it. But we also, when our customers give us access to their data so that we can help them with some sort of problem or issue, we need to make sure that our people that are looking at it are only US citizens. We're an international company. So that's one of the things that we had to look at, of how to make sure all of those support calls are routed to the proper representatives that are in the US. You need to ensure that your company's core operations are comply with the long-term requirements. Institutionalize how your new policies and procedures are put in place, and you don't want to run afoul of the new laws. Track your performance consistently. Use IT systems to manage compliance, and use the challenge of adhering to regulations as an opportunity to develop a more innovative and streamlined operation. Look at it as a potential for revenue, a potential to streamline, not necessarily a detractor. Additional strategy to achieve compliance. You need to plan and organize. Determine the strategy and how the organization will meet the business and compliance objectives. Acquire and implement. Identify and implement compliance technologies, processes, procedures that are based upon your strategy. Implement an integrated approach to compliance. It offers a path to much better decision making. Deliver and support. Enable the organization to actively use the compliance controls that you've implemented. Monitor and evaluate. Make use of the feedback mechanism driven by the auditing process. Now, how similar do these sound to the classic quality model pioneered by W. Edward Deming? Plan for quality. Do, implement the controls. Check, audit the process. Act on the results found and repeat the process. So this is nothing new, but it needs to be put on the compliance side, not just in a quality area. Today's rigorous compliance and reporting requirements suggest that there's a crisis of trust among company stakeholders. But scrambling retroactively to implement one-off solutions or responses to each new set of compliance regulations won't rebuild stakeholder trust. Such short-sighted solutions just cost a lot of money. Processes, your keys to success. The ability to audit, assess, and document evidence that business processes meet required standards are just some of the key elements to comply with regulations. Control your processes. The audit, assessment, and execution of your underlying business process management. This will make compliance easier and transparent throughout your organization. Compliance integrated into your processes. Compliance must be built into the process, not inspected in at the end. Your company needs the ability to automatically and continuously monitor and manage your compliance initiatives. Implementing controls associated with processes and tasks that compliance requirements are followed, while automatic tracking and the documentation of all process changes gives management the complete oversight that's necessary. Leveraging your controls. You need to optimize your business processes and controls. You need to have a single source and secured transactions. Leverage those integrated processes. Have role-based or even maybe down to field-based security in your systems of record. Have a complete document management system so that you can maintain all of the compliance documentation. And use enabling workflow to ensure that all tasks and items that need to be looked at are done. Use electronic signatures to maintain that the proper people have looked at your various compliance issues. Technology, enablers for compliance. They can't make you be compliant, but they can certainly enable the ability for compliance. Compliance functionality may be embedded in your ERP system or through point solutions, or what typically happens through a combination of both. Business process management can enforce such things as you need to fill in a mandatory field. You need to validate the contents of a particular field. You need to maintain full audit trails so that when auditors come in, they can look at exactly what has happened. You may need to have conditional security for specific tasks. You may need password prompts. Using this functionality can help you prioritize tasks, risks, and focus on the key control and risk areas. You can use Task Manager to make sure that you do the items on a to-do list, that the role-based security is for both internal and external people that access your system. You might have multi-level tasks. They may be done in parallel, they may be done sequentially. You need to make sure you have control over your applications, enforce your policies, and orient new users. People, the right atmosphere compliance. Probably the hardest nut to crack, but the one that has to probably take the most time to enforce. Creating their atmospheres by using the principles of right the first time. Leadership behavior. Ensuring that it has a high priority, walking the talk. Visible management commitment to compliance. You need to be approachable and open with all of your employees and as well as your customers. Involve all your teams in regulatory compliance and get the training right. Communication needs to be across the board, and you have to have effective feedback systems. And remember, training is a key to getting it right the first time. It ensures employees have the right skills, speeds the audit, and improves the process, and reduces employee-related non-compliance. Training needs to be repeated consistently and reinforced. And make sure you don't forget when new employees join the company that they get the proper training right off the bat. Let's talk a little bit about what best-in-class companies are doing to ensure regulatory compliance. In a study recently completed by Aberdeen in late 2010, they found out that there are several key areas that best-in-class companies put in place in order to ensure regulatory compliance in the strategic area. While best-in-class companies share strategies with their competitors on integrating compliance measures into their business processes, the notable differentiating factor lies in the focus on organizational accountability through effective communication. A key element is ensuring that stakeholders within various departments can communicate their respective risk impact on overall corporate liability. Improved communication also facilitates staff understanding of management directives, engagements, and compliance auditors. Finally, a resounding difference can be seen on creative competitive differentiation through effective compliance measures. A strategy that best-in-class companies are 1.5 times more likely to do than their competitors. By staying ahead of the compliance curve, you can attract new customers, improve on your corporate image. Additionally, these best-in-class companies are demonstrating their proactive initiatives in managing liability, thus alleviating business concerns with their customers and business partners. Return on investment. That's not, everyone worries about compliance. It's just, you know, it's going to just cost a lot, but you need to have a return on investment. Why are you doing it? Obviously to comply with the regulations, but you also want to enhance your company's bottom line. One of the core questions companies ask themselves before investing in compliance management solutions or services is, will this really pay off in the end? Companies that believe the answer is no are among those that believe improving compliance will translate into a higher cost of doing business, causing them to lose ground to competitors. On the other hand, companies that believe the answer is yes are looking at compliance as a means to sell into new and global markets. In this recent compliance study by Aberdeen, best-in-class companies were seen to leverage compliance towards generating new market revenue. As a result, these top companies generate more return on investment from their compliance measures than their competitors. Now, what technology was put in place in these best-in-class companies? With the exception of the area of financial modeling solutions utilizing tools such as Excel or Access databases, where best in class and all others were pretty much on par, there's a significant difference in the technology to enable regulatory compliance. One of the most significant differences is in the area of government risk and compliance, GRC solutions. Best in class is almost double that of all others, followed closely by environmental compliance solutions and workflow automation. Other technologies used for regulatory compliance includes enterprise performance management systems, using regulatory portals, ERP solutions that might contain compliance capabilities within them. And in closing, the key actions for regulatory compliance: you need to integrate your compliance measures into your day-to-day business processes. Don't inspect them in at the end. That doesn't work. You need to have defined workflow for organizational audits, for internal audits, so you find problems before the external auditors come in and find them for you. You need to have systematic monitoring of your key risk indicators. These need to be front and center on your home pages, on your dashboards. You need to monitor these items all the time. Promote accountability through effective communication. The accountability is assessed and needs to be delegated down through the entire organization. You need to make sure your compliance business objectives are clearly defined. And use technology enablers to support compliance initiatives. Use enabling technology for end-to-end compliance. It needs to be throughout all of your systems of record. Whether you're using one ERP system to do everything, or you're using a group of point solutions, make sure they're all integrated, talking to each other, and that all the items are forefront in everyone's mind. If you've got any questions, we are over in booth 8230, over in the next exhibit hall, and stop by. Would love to talk to you. Also, we're giving away an Amazon Kindle that you can sign up for. So look forward to seeing you, and I hope this presentation was helpful.